Greetings. Yes, it's John G. Sutton. Tales from the Jails. Right, I want to talk a little bit today about violence in prisons, specifically violence against inmates. Not against staff, there's plenty of that. Yeah, but also it works the other way around, you see. If you look on the news today, I think it's on the BBC site, there's a case in America where 4 guards attacked an inmate and administered a severe beating, he had dreadlocked hair, ripping one of his dreadlocks completely out of his hair by the roots. I would imagine that hurt a little bit. And they say that there's going to be an investigation. Of course there is. Yeah. These days, the prison staff wear body cameras. Yeah, I believe they do anyway. Back in the 1970s and 80s when I was there, they had no such thing as CCTV cameras, no mobile phones or anything like that. What they basically had was a code of conduct that was supposedly adhered to by the staff. One day when I was a hospital officer, I went down to D1 Landing, and as I walked in through D1 Landing, there was an inmate on the floor just before you get to the segregation unit, and he was being kicked by the staff. And they were taking turns in stepping back and running up 1, 2, 3, boot into him. Then another one had come up, 1, 2, 3, boot into him. I thought, this man is going to be kicked to death. The power with which they were kicking him caused the boot polish on the boots of the staff to become impregnated into the inmate's body. Somebody had kicked him in the face, and his front teeth and all his lips were damaged and bleeding, so I believe they'd broken some of his teeth. His head was bleeding at the sides, so he'd obviously cut his head on the way down, and his body, his naked body, was impregnated with the boot polish from the boots of the staff. I ran forward. I had a tray of drugs. I put the tray down, ran forward, and got hold of the inmate by the top of his head, and whisked him along. Because as soon as you get hold of somebody's hair, they come up. Don't they? Yeah, well, they do anyway. Believe me. And I got him into an empty cell and shut the door. Then I said to the staff, "I'm going to get the senior medical officer now." And immediately the staff turned as if to attack me. Yeah, but I picked my tray up and got out, and I went to get the senior medical officer. I said, "You better come and see this inmate because he is, I believe he's potentially seriously injured. I don't know, I haven't examined him. I've just briefly looked at him and see that there are wounds on his body. His teeth have been badly damaged, and his mouth is bleeding, and he got a cut on his head, and he's impregnated with boot polish having been kicked round the landing." So I got the senior medical officer and went with him to D1 Landing, and we opened the prisoner's cell, and the inmate was in there. It was a bit dark in there, actually, but there and no lights. So the senior medical officer looked at this inmate. He said to me, "Mr. Sutton," he said, "I can see absolutely no injuries whatsoever with this inmate." He said, "Why are you wasting my time?" Anyway, they didn't kill him, but the inmate was seriously injured, and the senior medical officer, and any report he made, would say that there were no injuries seen. You see, they had, believe this or not, I mean, it's hard to believe these days that these things happened, they had a day book on the block, and basically the day book, everything of note was written into the day book. So say at 3 p.m, visit by senior medical officer, nothing to report. That was written into the day book, something like that. And then, in the after say about 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock, noise from cell D132, whatever it was, inmate throwing himself at walls and at door, banging on the door, excessive noise, checked, inmate has injured himself. Stuff like that. That's how it was covered up, you see. But it wasn't just Strangeways, it was everywhere you went. You know, and they didn't have no means of checking on this because, as I say, there was no CCTV cameras. And the problem was that some of the staff would go drinking at lunchtime and maybe have one too many and just tip themselves over that point where common sense prevented them from doing something like that. But you'd see one or two staff come back from the club steamed up and decide that they were going to have a rumble. Well, the problem was that the prisoners, how are they going to defend themselves? Because if they do defend themselves, they're going to find that there's not one member of staff giving them a slap, there's half a dozen. Then you end up down on D1 and they rip all your clobber off you and sling you into a cell naked, and in the event that you kick up, you just get some more. That is the kind of violence that was inherent in the system. As they say in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. Ridiculous. Anyway, that's what was happening then. You can read about that kind of stuff in my book. It's HMP Manchester Prison Office. You get it on Amazon. It's going up the charts, actually. Thank you for those who are buying the book. And when we meet, I'll sign your books for you, you know. John will do that. I'm now going to read you a poem. Not singing. People have criticised my singing. Do you know that? Yeah? Somebody asked me to sing a song. What was it? Tiptoe Through the Tulip. Not much to it, so I'll give you a little verse of that, just to give you a little bit of a... Instead of going down D1 and getting a kick in, you can listen to this. Do you feel better about that? Do you? Well, do you? This is the most powerful handgun in the West. No, seriously, here we go. Tiptoe Through the Tulips. I'll do it in the style of Tiny Tim. Do you remember that? He used to be an act in the 60s or 70s. Great big, rather effeminate guy who used to dance around the stage singing, "Tiptoe through the tulips with me." I don't know much of it. Anyway, I tried, didn't I? It wasn't very effective. So I'm not going to sing you a song, unless somebody wants to request one, but I'm going to read you a poem. This is by one of my favourite poets, A.E. Housman. He held the chair of English literature at Oxford University, I believe, and this is his most famous work called A Shropshire Lad, and this is on Wenlock Edge. I've actually been to Wenlock Edge in Shropshire. I've been all around there having a look at the places that he writes about in his book, and it's quite an inspiration, but rather sad kind of themes that he had about soldiers going off to die in the First World War and that, but nonetheless a very effective poet, yeah. But what was he referred to as the poet of rural nostalgia? So here we have A.E. Housman's poem on Wenlock Edge. Wenlock Edge being a wooded area in Shropshire. And you really should go and have a look. It's a beautiful place. Go to Clun. You really would like Clun. I went to Clun. Yeah. Anyway, here we go. On Wenlock Edge. On Wenlock Edge, the wood's in trouble. His forest fleece, the Wrekin heaves. The gale, it plies the saplings double, and thick on 7 snow the leaves. 'Twould blow like this through Holt and Hanger, when Uricon the city stood. 'Tis the old wind in the old anger, but then it threshed another wood. Then, 'twas before my time, the Roman at yonder heaving hill would stare, the blood that warms an English yeoman, the thoughts that hurt him, they were there, like the wind through woods in riot. Through him the gale of life blew high, the tree of man was never quiet. Then 'twas the Roman, now 'tis I. The gale, it plies the saplings double, it blows so hard 'twill soon be gone. Today the Roman and his troubles are ashes under Uricon. There we are, A.E. Houseman. Get his book, A Shropshire Lad. It's cheap enough, you get it on Amazon. And don't forget to get my book, HMP Manchester Prison Officer. As I say, it's going up the charts, and it's full of details about the violence. And I'm working hard, folks, on the next volume. In fact, what am I at now? Nearly 20,000 words. So I've been applying myself. Hope you're enjoying these tales from the jails. Thank you very much. We'll meet again.